fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. For your latest news and high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull when you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. You got Craig and TK and Heather D. Tune in at the fish report.
Coming to you live from Studio F in Russia, Ohio. It's the Fish Report Live Show with your hosts, Craig Fissinger and Ken Francis.
Welcome, folks, to another Fish Report Live, our last episode of the fall sports season. My name's Craig Fissinger. That is Ken Francis. In just a few minutes, we'll be talking to our sound room guys, TK and Heavy D. And Ken, you know, when you're dealing with a rock star, sometimes it's hard to coordinate things, and everyone wants a little piece of you, and we certainly experienced that this past week, didn't we?
Yes, we did, Craig. We had Olympic bronze medalists and Tri-Village alumni Clayton Murphy, Craig, all lined up for a show. He was excited. We were excited. Unfortunately, Craig, something bigger and better happened, and it happened to be his sponsor, Nike, needed him out to do a promo shoot out in L.A., Craig. So, you know, unfortunately, Fish Report took second hand to the Nike promo shoot. But,
I guess they were paying him more than we were, huh?
They must be. And anyways, so Clayton said he'd take a rain check, so we hope to have him on the show maybe whenever we can get him on, and whenever he's available, we'll definitely get him on the show again. But said Craig, we're going to talk some high school football. To a guy that really knows a lot about sports. He's going to break down week 2 of the playoffs, Craig, and that's with Sonny Fulks from Press Pros Magazine. Always a great interview, Craig. Really looking forward to talking to Sonny tonight on our show.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting stuff. But before we do that, Ken, just like we do every week on this show, we have our weekly poll question, and we're not going to forget about Clayton entirely. He's part of tonight's poll question.
Yes, he is, Craig, and we're going to talk about some Darke County legends, Craig. And of these 4, which would you prefer to have dinner with? Would it be Clayton Murphy from Tri-Village, Dave Gray, the OHSA commissioner, interim commissioner from Franklin Monroe, Craig Stallman, of course, the Major League Baseball player from Versailles, or Miss Annie Oakley? She could shoot a pretty good bow and arrow, I think, or something back in the day. So of those 4, Craig, who would you prefer to have dinner with?
You know what? I'd probably pick Dave Gray. I'd like to bend his ear about a few topics in the OHSAA, but I'll let our viewers out there decide who they want to talk to or have dinner with. If you're watching us on the Fish Report Live page, of course, you can scroll down, answer tonight's poll question, and check the results. If you're watching us on NK Telco or Gameface Ohio, we will have those results for you at the end of the show. All right, Ken, well, let's go right back to the sound room tonight. I want to check in with those guys back there. And you know, as we wrap up our fall sports season here at Fish Report Live, you know, just football left to talk about. A little bit of volleyball, got the state tournament coming up. And cross country, of course, wrapped up last Saturday at over there in Hebron with the OHSAA State Cross Country Championships. And I know TK knows a lot about cross country. So, TK, what'd you think? What's your final thoughts on the season that was?
Well, Craig and Ken, it was another good season. Always have fun with cross country here, and never get let down in our little section of Ohio and all the good runners we have around here. Just some overviews. Of course, SCAL from beginning to end. We had Fort Laramie boys and Russia girls. So Fort Laramie edging in and pushed out the Russia boys, but very, very strong team there. Also, some other new names kind of popped up. Houston has quite a nice team, and they did some good running this year in the SCAL. Nice to see that. Looking at the MAC, of course, Minster girls dominant as always, but on the boys' side, we had a little bit of a surprise. A team that's usually good, but really stood out this year is the St. Henry boys won the MAC championship and went on to run a little bit at the state. So a nice job there by those boys. CCC, always a couple nice teams come out of there, and Covington had a really great year this year with their senior Anna Dunn, who we were just talking with about a week ago. And then Bradford's little sophomore phenom, Carmen Knapp, just had a great year, went on to run at state by herself, finished 10th as a sophomore. But believe it or not, guys, she was the 3rd sophomore across the line. So quite a lot of nice young runners out there in the state right now in D3.
Yeah, a lot of young talent for sure.
As you mentioned, state meet just finished up. Got to give just big credit to Minster and those girls over there. We watched them all year, number one in the polls along the whole year, wondering how they were going to finish up this year, and they only finished up by recording a record 38 points in their win and taking their 10th title at state championship and girls cross country. So just an outstanding job by those girls. Finished with a team average time of 19:02. That time, I went back to the last time Minster ran and won, and that was 2010, and that team ran a team average of 20 minutes. So quite a dominant time there by those girls. Of course, on the other side, locally out of SCAL, we got the boys from Fort Laramie. We talked about them last week. Going in, looking at the numbers, probably an honest third place, and all those boys did was 4 of the 5 had PRs this race. The 5th boy had his best run of the year, and they just blew away the field and earned themselves a state championship. And Ken, you know, we talked about it before, that's how you do it, right?
That's right. You know, anytime you get an opportunity and when you got a good team, a lot of good things got to happen. The stars got to be lined up right. The galaxies all got to be tilted the right direction. And, you know, and your kids got to perform at the top level, and that's exactly what happened in Fort Laramie. Coach Pranger's squad there just had an outstanding day. Congratulations to him and the Redskins.
Yeah, I was happy for him. You know, I felt like this was the one year, if they were going to do it, I felt like this was the one year they were going to do it. You know, they have a couple seniors on that team, and Tom Bowles and Alan Holdheide, and you know, they got some boys coming up, but I felt like this was their best opportunity to do it with the crew that they had, and sure enough, they pulled it off. So happy for them. Happy for the Minster girls. You know, they last year in 2015, guys, ranked number 1 in the state. Ended up coming in second. 2014 ranked number 1 in the state. Ended up coming in 4th that year. So to come in this year again ranked 4th, you know, you had to have some of that in the back of your mind, like, you know, listen, we've been ranked number 1 3 years in a row now at least, and so that a little bit of pressure for them to come through and pull off a state record 38 points, like you said, TK. I'm really happy for them. So
yeah, they ran phenomenal from start to finish. You know, you looked at the mile splits, and they were in first place at the 1 mile marker. They were in first place at the 2 mile marker, and their lead could just continue to grow throughout the race. So congratulations, Coach Magato, the rest of your Wildcats as well.
And before we move on to Heavy and his football, just hit a couple of the other teams. Of course, again, Covington was at the state, finished 9th. Our Raiders, this is the girls' side, finished 14th with a nice year there. And Fort Laramie, of course, they made it to the state and finished 19th. And I expect to see all those teams back again next year. So, as I said earlier, another great year across country. Looking forward to seeing some of these girls running in the spring, and then how the rest of their careers in high school go.
Yeah, you mentioned the Russia girls and the Laramie girls in the SCAL there, and Russia, one of those teams, you know, we get to watch pretty closely here, and I feel like every year, you know, they lose some good seniors, and you're like, oh boy, they're not going to be able to pick up where they left off, and somehow they always seem to, and they just keep marching on, and they've been running that state meet for a number of years now. And those Fort Laramie girls, you know, if probably didn't finish as high as maybe they wanted to, but they have a lot of talent coming back too. A very, very young team.
Yes.
Their top 2 girls were freshmen for sure, and I know they had a girl that was actually out that wasn't running because of an injury, another freshman. So yeah, look out for them next year. Going to be a lot of fun to watch, both Fort Laramie and Russia.
Yeah, they had a really good junior high team, Craig. The Fort Laramie girls did. So, like you said, they're kind of running that same path as what their boys did. They're only a year or 2 behind. So. But, you know, they're always going to have that team from up north there, the Minster Wildcats, to contend with, too. So, in a couple of years, you may have the 2 best girls D4 programs in the state of Ohio right next to each other.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go over to Heavy D. And Heavy D, I know one sport that's not quite finished yet, as we mentioned a little bit ago, is volleyball. And a local team left that we've been watching all season is getting ready to play in the state tournament, aren't they?
Yeah, before we get to that, Craig, I want to make one correction so Ken doesn't get toilet papered by all the members of Darke County. Little Miss Sure Shot did not shoot an bow and arrow. She was famous for shooting rifles, shotguns, and handguns. So
I picked that up, too. I wasn't going to say anything, but...
Thanks, back there, Heavy D.
All right, man.
I knew she was shooting something.
All right, let's talk a little bit of volleyball. You know, this is the first time since 1993 that the MAC has not had a team participating in the state tournament.
That's amazing.
That's a run of 22 consecutive years for the MAC, and But the good thing is, though, for Shelby County, we've got Jackson Center coming in. Tigers are ranked number one in the state under Coach Metz, 28-0, going for their second straight title. It would be Jackson Center's fifth school state title in school history. They got one volleyball from last year, 2 girls basketball, and 1 boys basketball. Couple notes about Kim Metz. Again, congratulations, Coach Metz. She was named Ohio's D4 Coach of the Year this week. Big honor for her. And she's got 3 seniors named All-Ohio. Senior Cassie Meyer, Alicia Kessler, first team, and Cameron Haney named to the second team. And if there's a category for master statistician, Coach Metz would get that as well. If you've ever watched Coach Metz coach, she's always got a clipboard in her hand, and she's documenting every move those players make. Every time somebody coughs, she's giving them a tick mark. So it's pretty incredible, and that's led to a lot of her success over the years, is her ability to know where her players need to be, make the corrections on the fly, and go from there. Also playing this weekend, they'll be playing. Jackson will be playing number 14 Dalton. They're 25-3. That takes place at the Wright State Nutter Center this Friday at 12 o'clock p.m. The other game is Macomb 27-2, number 3, versus the number 8 New Philadelphia Tuscaloosa Central Catholic. I think I got that right. Probably not. 25-2, and that game starts at 2 p.m. So the Division State Final game is this Saturday at 3 p.m. So good luck to Coach Metz and her Lady Tigers.
You know, Craig, you look at them 4 teams, and I don't know a whole heck of a lot about volleyball, but I just think Jackson Center is going to be really tough to beat. I seen what they did to New Bremen last week. New Bremen had a really good girls volleyball team coming in, and Jackson Center took care of business pretty easy there. So who knows? I guess we'll play it out and see what happens over at the Nutter Center.
Yeah, it just tells you how competitive this side of Ohio is. I agree with you. It seems like you get out of this Southwest region or whatever, and it's almost anticlimactic when you get to the state. I went to the Rushi Fall Sports Award banquet last night, and Coach Watkins was talking about his team and how they finished 14-12 and got beat in the districts there by Lehman. But he mentioned that of those 12 losses, 8 of those losses were to teams that made it to the regional tournament. So just, again, tells you how tough it is around this area in volleyball.
Yes, it is. I mean, any sport, whether you're talking volleyball or the upcoming basketball season or the cross-country season, you look at all the state champions that the MAC and the Shelby County League produce. It's just simply amazing.
All right, good season-ending stuff there, guys. Let's take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about some football, some playoff football, some MAC football with Sonny Fulks at Press Pros Magazine.
Stage at the leaving van. Music starts at 8 o'clock. You can find us here every Wednesday night. It's usually the same cats every week, but I can't tell you all their names. Teacher, cat, and a junkie, all waiting for time to play. Everybody here's got something that we're trying to leave behind. We're all a little broken, for a place to hide. Get no answers, don't ask any questions. We're all here just looking for a high. Yeah, we're all beautifully broken here tonight.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the second half of Fish Report Live, and we just wrapped up our cross-country and volleyball talk for the season. Time to talk a little football and wrap that up as well, and for that we spoke to Sonny Fulks of Press Pros Magazine last night about the MAC and the playoffs, and let's see what he had to say.
We're on the phone with Sonny Fulks, the managing editor of Press Pros Magazine, and Sonny, thanks for joining me to talk a little Week 12 playoff football.
Fish, it's always fun. I'm glad you gave me the time.
Well, listen, we have lots of fun games and a number of local teams playing this Friday and Saturday night. Let's get things started in Division II, Region 8, this Friday night, 7:30 p.m. at Northmont's Good Samaritan Stadium. Number 1 seed Troy at 10-1 takes on number 4 seed Miamisburg at 9-2. And Sonny, this is a Troy program that prior to last week hadn't won a playoff game since the year 2000. They hang on last Friday to beat Cincinnati Anderson by the score of 41-35. What has head coach Matt Burbacher done to get things turned around at Troy?
Well, I think the first thing is he came in and he sold himself. Matt was a very popular coach when he was at Loramie, as you know, and he just, I call him the Pied Piper of football in the area, because wherever he goes, he gets kids enthusiastic about the sport. They buy into him, they believe him, they love him, they want to play for him, they play hard for him. And, he's brought the culture of football back to Troy. And Craig, the thing that's so impressive about it is he's done it in a year. Just a year ago, they were 2-8. He's flipped that now to 10-1. And, their best days are even ahead of them. They're not a terribly talented team. It's just that he's getting 110% out of every kid that wears a helmet. And, again, I go back to the point of bringing the culture of football back to Troy. It was always important. He's brought that back, and not only the kids, but the community have bought in.
Quite a turnaround story there. Let's move ahead on to Division 5, Region 20, Saturday night at 7 p.m., Sonny, at Sydney Memorial Stadium. Number 2 seed Coldwater at 10-1 takes on number 6 seed Greenview at 9-2. And the Cavs lost to Minster this year. They had close games with Marion Local, St. Henry, and Versailles. To me, Sonny, this doesn't feel like those same dominating Coldwater teams of the past, and I wanted to know what you thought.
Well, I don't think they do have the thunder and lightning downfield that they had last year when they had Harleman and Craig Shanehair and Petey Post and Jack Harleman to throw the ball to, or Jack Himmelgarn to throw the ball to him. There's no question about that. I've had coaches tell me this year that they're playing with spare parts. And, that's no knock on the kids that are there. It just means that a lot of those kids last year played third and fourth quarter with prohibitive leads, or they got kids that have played JV the last 2 years who are now, maybe some of them seniors, getting their first chance to contribute, and they're making the most of it. They're making their best opportunity to fulfill that legacy of football at Coldwater. And this is what you get when you get success on your hands. Nobody wants to be the team that lets the legacy down. And they're getting better every week. I spent some time with Chip Otten on Sunday, and he says we're a dangerous football team because we're improving rapidly every week, and that's got to be good things for Cavalier fans to know.
And, of course, all those close games and that loss was to fellow MAC teams, so that might explain a little bit of it there. Let's move ahead and talk about Division 6, Region 24, Friday night, 7:30 p.m. I have 2 games I want to discuss. First, let's look at number 1 seed Marion Local at 10-1 versus number 5 seed St. Henry at 8-3. This is another game at Sydney Memorial Stadium. And Sonny, the Flyers stomped the Redskins by a score of 31-0 just 3 weeks ago. Any reason to believe this game will be any different?
Yes, I do. Yeah, there's a lot of reason to believe, because 3 weeks ago, St. Henry's quarterback, a youngster junior named Dalen Lange, got hurt in the very first possession of the second quarter when they were only behind 7-0, and they were driving on Marion Local. That game would not been a 31-0 had Lange not gotten a concussion. He's back, playing well, healthy, and I was very impressed with him last week against a much bigger and more physical Spencerville team. They're the real deal. Again, Blake Hoying, their running back and wide receiver, is playing very well. Mitch Schwederman, their fine linebacker, is just lights out on defense for them. Lange's playing well. Ryan Luckmer, their junior running back, ran for 175 yards and a pair of scores last week. They're one of 3 teams, Craig, that I tell people every day on the website, 3 teams that have impressed me with improving the most from week 1 through right now. One of them is Coldwater, one of them is St. Henry, and the other one You just mentioned them, the Minster Wildcats.
All right, exciting to hear that. The other game in Division 6, though, is in Region 24 I want to ask you about is the number 2 seed Delphus Jefferson at 10-1 versus number 3 seed Mechanicsburg at 11-0. They're playing this one at Bell Fountains Aki Sports Stadium. Sonny, I spoke to someone close to the Mechanicsburg program several weeks ago before the playoffs started, and they thought if they got a shot at Marion Local this postseason, they just might have the team to beat the Flyers. What do you know about the Indians?
Well, I know a lot about them, and I know their best player and the best athlete in the state of Ohio, pound for pound, is their quarterback, a youngster named Caleb Romero, who is a 3-time defending state champion in wrestling, and I think he did it in 3 different weight classes, starting about 137 pounds 3 years ago. This guy, more than anybody I've ever seen, is worth $9 to go watch him play because he plays on both sides of the ball. He's dynamic. He's a playmaker. I think I told you previously that not only is he a great athlete, I don't think I've been told he's never gotten a B in his life in school, not on a paper, not on an assignment, not in a class, not on a test, nothing. I mean, he is a perfectionist and a kid who's just a born winner. Going to Ohio State, I think, on a wrestling scholarship next year. The problem with, and to say if they have the team to take down Marion Local, I don't think they have the complement of players that they had last year when Marion beat them, in the last minute of the game on a field goal, I think. I just don't think they have that complement to go with Caleb Romero, but they're a dangerous football team, and if they're a team that gets up on you, their running game with Romero is good enough where they can milk the clock and just make the game go away.
All right, finally, a couple games I want to ask you about in Division 7, Region 28, and they're playing these Saturday night at 7 o'clock. First is number 1 seed Covington at 11-0 versus number 5 seed Fort Recovery at 7-4. This game is being played at Pickles Alexander Stadium, and we've seen this Covington versus MAC matchup before, Sonny, and it typically ends up going to the MAC. Is this Covington team legit?
Yeah, this team is. I would not want Fort Recovery or MAC fans to get complacent because this is an entirely different Covington team. That doesn't mean that they're going to go out and play. Anything can happen on a given night. You know that.
Sure.
But this is not a triple option team that Dave Miller had. This is a team that Ty Cates came in and revamped. He's made them a spread team. Suddenly, about 15 outstanding skills players that were walking the halls at Covington came back out for football and said, this is the way I want to play. So now they've got a Zach Parrott who's a 6'6" split end on one side. They got another kid who's a 6'5" tight end on the other side. They can both go down, make plays. Nathan Blythe throws. They throw the ball 20 to 30 times a game now. And they've got a very good complement of running backs, with Lance Miller and a youngster named Brandon Robinson. They can run it. They're a little susceptible, frankly, probably to the pass, but most high school teams are. But they're not the same team that you remember playing Marion Local and Delphus St. John's and some of those teams that put it on them in the past. This is a very legit team that's got a lot of weapons.
Sounds like a good reason to head to Pickle on Saturday night. And the last game I want to ask you about, Sonny, in Region 28 is number 3 seed Minster at 7-4 versus number 7 seed Upper Scioto Valley at 8-3. This one is at Walpox Harmon Field. And Sonny, I hate to admit it, but I gave up on the Wildcats after 4 losses in a row back in September. But then, hey, they shocked the world with the Coldwater win, and I'm a believer again. So what's up with Minster?
Well, here's what's up. Their offensive line found their identity. I think tackle to tackle, they're a very impressive group of kids with Putoff and Dorston and some of those kids that, Garen Stokes would tell you, good offensive line play is always a work in progress. And if you look now, they've won 5 of their last 6, and they've done it with dominating run play. Bryce Schmeezing is an all-league tailback back there who can run it, he can catch it, he can do a lot of things, and he's a great defensive player. Jared Hulsman, if you'll notice, is the first-team all-league quarterback in the MAC. Again, a kid that's multi-dimensional. He can run it, he can throw it. They got Johnny Niemeyer that can get downfield and catch the ball. Isaac Schmeezing, number 4, the younger brother of the running back, made a big catch for a touchdown last Friday night, 65 yards against Lehman. I tell people, and I told somebody just earlier today from upstate, talking about the same thing. What about Minster? I said the best number 3 seed maybe in the brackets because they are healthy, they are coming together, they're improving every week, and they're exciting to watch.
Well, listen, great stuff, Sonny. It sounds like another fantastic weekend of playoff football. Thanks for joining us on Fish Report Live, and we'll look forward to reading your game stories on PressProsMagazine.com.
Fish, thanks for the call. It's always great to talk with you. I'll do it again.
All right, and that was Sonny Fulks of Press Pros Magazine. And Ken, that guy knows his stuff. I tell you what, you know Mel Kiper from ESPN that does the draft day stuff. If that guy ever loses his job, Sonny could take over no problem.
Well, I tell you what, I'm impressed. Sonny writes great articles, but not only that, Craig, he's a great talker, and he knows his stuff. I mean, he knows players' stats, he knows their numbers, he knows what positions they play. He rattled off so many high school football names there, Craig. He had my head spinning. So, yeah, good job, Sonny, and appreciate the great insight on high school football.
All right, and we have just a minute left, Ken. I wanted to get your thoughts on something that's been in the news this week. I don't know if you saw where the NCAA has decided to, or the Big Ten actually has decided to play games on the one night of the week that's sacred to high school football, and that's Friday night, starting in 2017. Going to play some Friday night games. I think 6 Fridays in September and October they have games scheduled for. I think Michigan has decided they don't want to participate in that, but schools like Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, I believe, are open to doing that. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I'm fine with it, Craig. I think they play college football games on almost all the other nights of the week, including Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays, and other leagues play on Fridays as well. So I don't think it's going to compete a whole lot with the high school teams. I honestly don't. I think some of these big schools are looking for some more TV exposure. Not necessarily your Michigans or Ohio States of the world. They get enough TV exposure the way it is, but a great opportunity maybe for your Northwesterns or Indianas or Rutgers or some of those other Big Ten schools to get some TV airtime on a night that they aren't competing against the big time college programs.
Well, it's interesting that perspective that you have. I saw the comments from Ohio State AD Gene Smith where he's saying that they were looking at options for another revenue stream and opportunities for their television partners. And I know a lot of people. You seem to have a differing opinion than Press Pros Magazine, 419 Sports. I know Jim Naveau had a nice article about it in the Lima News maybe last week. And, actually, Jim's got a comment here that was kind of funny, I thought, but he said, if they're going to do this, Jim said, quote, leave for the game early, leave very early. It's not going to be pretty when thousands of cars are added to an already congested I-70 around 5 o'clock on Friday. So.
That's a good point there. Good point there. But as far as, I think a lot of them are doing it for TV exposure. And, if that's the night they want to play football on, I'm fine with it.
All right, good stuff there. That's about going to wrap it up for us tonight. One more thing to get to, and that is tonight's poll question. Ken, you want to read that for our viewers again?
Well, we talked about our Darke County legends, Craig, and if you could have dinner with one of these 4 Darke County legends, who would it be? Would it be the bronze Olympic medalist Clayton Murphy, the OHSA interim commissioner Dave Gray, Craig Stahman, or Miss Annie Oakley, who was awful good at shooting that rifle? So which of those 4, TK back there in the sound room and the telemetrics, who's our listeners out there want to have dinner with?
Well, first, I have to say that I did just popped up on the telemetrics. We've got at least one viewer in New York City tonight, right off the financial district. Not sure who it is, but it's flashing on the telemetrics there. So
how about
big,
that?
Shout out to New York City and our
Trump.
viewer out there. I think it might be Donald Trump.
It could be. That's a good call right there.
But back to the poll question. As we know, we have a bunch of cerebral listeners out there, and it's a tie between David Gray and Annie Oakley. So we've got some folks out there that want to have some deep conversations at dinner.
All right. Well, that's good stuff back here, guys.
Yeah, that's gonna do it for us. That's gonna wrap it up for our full sports season. Been a lot of fun, guys. Ken and I and the crew, we're all gonna take a couple weeks off. Be back at the end of November to talk some high school girls and boys basketball. So looking forward to that. But until then, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and good night.
Hanging at the fish report. 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 For your latest news in high school sports, tune in to the Fish Report. Don't need no baby, don't need no pull when you tune in to the Fish Report. Hanging